The MMA India Show.
Awesome. So first of all, congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats
Appreciate
on the move
it.
to one championship. So just fill in the Indian viewers and everybody else on the move from UFC to one championship, the thought behind it, not renewing the contract, and how everything worked out. You know, you must have, of course, spoken to people around you, your family members, your team members. It must have been a very well thought out decision. So can you just fill us in on the whole thought process behind it?
Yeah, it was. That's a loaded question, but I'll just get going on it. So basically, the idea was always to fight out the contract and to get to free agency and to see what my worth was. It's in my opinion, it's the best time in history in the sport for fighters to get paid and to get exposure. You've got, obviously the UFC, you've got Viacom backed, Bellator, you've got one championship, you've got PFL giving $1 million, that's on ESPN as well.
Yeah.
There's just so much opportunity out there right now. And so for my thing was, hey, I do have options, and, even if I wanted to stay with the UFC, I wanted to see, hey, what is my value, and at the worst, at least I know how much I'm getting underpaid.
Yeah.
Or if I'm getting overpaid, which is never the case with the UFC. So I wanted to see where that was at. I didn't want the UFC to be set my value. I wanted the market to set it. So got to free agency, and that's what we did. Tested free agency, fielded multiple offers, and basically, financially, one was significantly more. If it was even in the neighborhood, maybe I would have, reconsidered, or it would have been a much more difficult decision at least. But one was significantly more.
So there was an offer from UFC, it just didn't match one.
Say again?
I said there was an offer from UFC, but it just didn't match one, correct?
Absolutely, there was an offer. There was an offer before my last fight to re-sign. We declined and we decided to fight out. Then there was a higher offer after my last fight, my fourth one. But not only financials, financials aside, they just couldn't offer me, they were offering me less fights, only 2 a year again.
Yeah. So
it was a 2-year contract at 4 fights, what I just fought. Whereas for one, it's 6 fights over the 2 years. The 2 fights a year, again, I can't get momentum where I'm here to compete. The more I compete, closer I get to a title, the more I get paid, all of those things, right? Time is very important in this career. So I wasn't happy about that. So essentially, the UFC offer wasn't going to get me, to anywhere close to the title. It wasn't going to get my momentum going in any type of way. And on top of all of that, they have no plans for India. And the reason I got into this sport was for 3 things. Number 1, to get a world title. Number 2, take the sport to India. And number 3, make a lot of money. And in all 3 categories, one championship delivered within this one contract. And the UFC couldn't even match one of those. So, when I looked at it, I took a step back, talked to my team, my family, all of that stuff. It was a no-brainer. Obviously, it's tough because you get into the sport and you think, hey, I want to be a UFC champion.
Yeah.
Especially when I got into this, 2013, I started fighting. These other organizations weren't around. Bellator was very small. Bjorn was still involved there. There was no traction with one at that time. Now they're on Star Sports. Now they signed a TNT deal in the U.S. and they're coming to the U.S. It's a completely different landscape. So I made the decision to sign with one. It was a better decision for me personally.
Now, coming back to the UFC plans for India. Now, as far as we know, they were planning, or they were deciding on whether to have plans on India or not, and they were doing some market research, but I'm guessing they have decided not to foray into India right now and to develop the market more and develop the fighters more before they do make that foray.
Yeah, so basically that's what they've been doing since I was signed. So we're in the same we're still at step one from when I got signed. Whatever. What do you get? And so it was the same situation. It hadn't evolved yet. So that told me that, hey, there are no plans. You can keep studying it for 10 years. What's that going to do?
Yeah.
And so essentially, I need someone who's going in there. And the fact is, the UFC, they don't have anyone with an Indian background within the organization. There's no one. So they don't know how to crack that market and get in there. Their priority, which they stated, is the Russian market right now. That is their priority, and India isn't, and the Indian market isn't, and that's fine.
The Russian and the Chinese market, I would say.
Yes, Chinese as well, but more Russian.
More Russian.
Because they have top fighters, and they're trying to leverage that in the Middle East and in Russia. It's the Russian Muslims that they're trying to capitalize off. That money is there now for them, for the company. And that's what they're trying to do. They're all about the company, right?
Yeah.
What's going to make them their buck? And it's riding the Russian wave right now.
Through Khabib.
Via Khabib.
And a lot of the others, yeah.
Yeah. And the Chinese, again, there's a big fight coming down the line on the female side. So if she gets that belt, then it'll be, a bigger push in China. But the Russia is their priority. So India, like I said, there was no plan. There has been no plan. They just keep saying they're studying it, which means that will go on forever. And over on one, they flew me out to Singapore business class with my wife. I met the whole team, A to Z. They paid me top dollar. I met one of the co-owners who's from Haryana, Saurabh. He signed the deal for Star Sports.
Mr. Jindal, right? Saurabh Jindal.
Yeah. And so he signed the deal for Star. He helped recruit Ritu over. So, they're making moves, and they're poised to have an event in 2020. And that's why, they really recruited me heavily, and it made a lot of sense for me. So that was it for me.
Great. Now, like you said, one is planning an event in 2020. They've got the Star Sports Network now. They've got Hotstar also. Which is great. They're starting to do live shows. Even their One Warrior series, which is a supporting promotion to them, is on Hotstar. So they are making a lot of the right moves for the Indian market.
Absolutely, and I think Ritu is going to be huge. I think that one is going to be huge for them. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the family, obviously, from the wrestling side, but just having that's going to open up the whole pipeline. That's going to show the wrestlers that you have a career option and make the jump. And she's going to do great when you come from high-level wrestling like she does.
Yeah.
She has a great story that she can tell, and she's going to have success. I think that one's going to be a big payoff.
Now, tell me one thing. Do you think they need to adjust their marketing a bit, or are they doing fine in terms of, if you look at the Indian viewers, the MMA viewers, the fans, they are still attuned very heavily into the UFC fighters, and if you see a lot of the stuff which is going viral and everything, like a Jorge Masvidal knockout and blah blah blah, all of those stories which keep coming out, as opposed to one which is all about the martial arts. You have amazing fights there, but there are not so many stories surrounding the fights, if you know what I mean. So do you think that they need to tweak that for India, considering how we as Indians love drama as well?
We do love drama, huh?
Yeah.
I think that will happen naturally. I think their brand is structured differently. They like to build heroes and tell, obviously inspirational stories based on Asian values, which will naturally connect with viewers, and which is a great step to come from, and it's something I've been raised by, and I feel good about. You're not going to get guys giving other individuals the 3-piece and the soda backstage and throwing dollies through windows and that type of stuff, which is good because these kids are going to be heroes. The fighters are going to be heroes for kids, so that makes a lot of sense. At the same time, I think it will continue to evolve, especially if they're coming to the U.S. I think those storylines will continue to evolve now, and it takes it's on the fighters too. You have to take that in your own hands. If you look at Ben Askren, if you look at Jorge, if you look at a lot of these guys, they've really created that themselves, and then the UFC just amplified what they created. So it's not like they're writing a script for that drama. It's happening organically, and they're just amplifying it. So I think the athletes also have to tell their own story in that manner, and then I think the one would amplify it because it would make sense.
Yeah. Now, coming down closer to your fight, what one has seen is that the fighters who are coming from UFC have not necessarily had an easy time at one championship, which a lot of people thought, these guys, they're coming from the UFC, and they're gonna wipe the floor with the one fighters. But that's not necessarily the case. We have seen Eddie Alvarez lose. We have seen Sage Northcutt been brutally knocked out in the first round, and even Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson have a very, very tough fight. So there are some real killers in one championship. It's not an easy promotion. Their level of martial arts is very, very high. Of course, on the flip side, you've seen Ben Askren from one go to UFC and also not have an easy time. Now, having said that, you are up against a fighter called Mauro Cerilli. Now, he has a 13-3 record, and his last win was over a guy called Elaine Galani, who is not just a walkover. It's a big scalp. Let's just say that. And he's had some really good wins. What do you think of Mauro? Have you studied him yet? And what do you think of that fight? It's what I would think is it's not an easy first fight to start off with at one championship.
Yeah, everything you say is true. There are a lot of tough guys out there. So that whole narrative that the UFC guys can just walk over and have a cakewalk is not true. And history has shown that. Every one of the guys have had a tough fight. I expect a tough fight. We expected a tough fight before we signed the contract, that we were going to get a top guy. So, we did that knowingly. But, where I'm at in my career, I want to get going and I want to get a world title. So, it's something that, you're stepping into. So I do that willingly. I know what I'm signing up for. I'm not looking for easy fights and walkovers. He fought for the heavyweight title. He fought Alan, who's a world-class kickboxer. So I knew all that, and we're excited for the matchup. And I'm excited to show what I've been working on in my world-class skills over Mauro.
So, but specifically about Mauro now, have you studied him a bit? Because he is one of he's an Italian fighter, one of Europe's top heavyweights, ranked as well. Now,
absolutely.
So have you studied some of his other fights?
Yeah, same process we have for all fighters. Obviously, you get a name, you dissect him, you see what his tendencies are, and then you get going from there. So, he's accomplished. Many years he's been fighting. He's got a title from Europe. He came out here, fought for the heavyweight title. So he's got a lot of experience. He knows how to win. He has a judo background. He likes to clinch. He likes to box, and he likes to come forward. So it's going to be an exciting fight. We've dissected him, and I've been training with Daniel Cormier here in camp, and I feel that Daniel Cormier is a better version of Mauro. So I should be well prepared.
And what about the rest of the heavyweight division in one? What do you think of their roster as such? Are there any other names which stand out for you?
Brandon Vera. That's the name that stands out for me.
Yeah.
And I'll be in his hometown in the Philippines, so I hope he's at ringside. And we can maybe get excited after the fight and set something up for later on. But that's the name that excites me. That's the reason I've always been fighting, is to get a world title. And I'm excited to put on a great fight with Mauro and finish him, and then set my sights on Brendan. And he's been hanging on to that title for many years. But every era comes to an end, and what he's done for the Philippines in one one championship, I wanted to do for Indians. So I need that title, and I need to get that name on my resume.
Now, another thing that some promotions are doing, apart from the UFC, to form their own niche, they're doing different things. Like, of course, you have a Pro Fighter League doing the whole $1 million thing. Then you have Bellator doing these, where they have the whole, I think it was the heavyweight, where everybody, has this, I forgot what you call it, but you know what I mean, right? Where, sorry?
The tournament?
Yeah, the tournament, exactly. Now, what do you think of these? Of course, I would like to think of them. Of course, they're still legitimate fights, but there are marketing angles as well to get people interested in them away from just the UFC. What do you think of them, and do you think one also can do something a little different to get even more interest?
Yeah, well, I think they're doing that now with Eddie. He's in the tournament, right? He got pulled back in.
Yeah.
So I think they do look at doing that type of stuff, and I think it's good for when it makes sense. When you can build a good storyline, when you have good names in there, change things up, stand out. I think you can do that, and they are doing that over at one already. And like I said, they're just very creative with what they're doing. Their approach is different. It's a growing brand by leaps and bounds. No one can compare to how fast they're growing, especially how dominant they are in Asia. So I'm excited to see what they do coming to the U.S. now. Obviously going to India. I've heard rumors of going to Brazil with Vitor as well. So to be a part of something that's growing is exciting. The UFC's been around forever. They're not in that growth phase as much anymore. Maybe they're getting a little complacent. I don't know. But one excites me.
Now, as a one last question before we leave you is, like you said, 2020 One Championship is aiming to be in India.
Yep.
If they asked you which city should we debut in the country, which city do you think they should fight in India? And of course, you would want to be on that card. But which city do you think they should debut in India?
Well, I asked them all this stuff. I didn't want to leave it up to chance. I want to know what the plans are.
Yeah.
And I asked them what are the plans. Obviously, the two cities that come to mind are Delhi and Mumbai, right? So I asked them, you go north or south?
Yeah.
And they said south. They are going to bright lights of Mumbai. That is the plan right now.
Great. Now, before we sign off, any last message for your Indian fans who are going to be rooting for you on August 2nd?
No, just, you know what, I appreciate the continued support. I hope you guys understand the thought process in going to one. It makes a great deal of sense for not only me, but our entire market. The next 2 years are going to be fantastic under one. I'm very excited and very honored to be under this banner. And it's going to be a great legacy piece to lead the sport in India. They know what they're doing. They have a great plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. Please continue to support August 2nd. I appreciate it, and stay tuned for more developments.
Great. All the best for your fight, Arjan. We will be following you and hope to interview right after your successful fight on August 2nd.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Take care. Cheers. That was Arjan Bhullar before his fight on August 2nd against Mauro Cerilli, the one fighter from Italy. And it's going to be a tough fight, but of course, all the Indian fans are going to be cheering for Arjan Singh Bhullar. This is Praveen Devas signing off. I think I'll go and have some breakfast now since I just came rushing to do this interview. Thank you for tuning in again, as always, on a Monday morning. And we're glad we could start off your Monday morning in a very productive way with this interview with Arjan Singh Bhullar. Until next time, thank you. And do tune in again soon. Cheers. Goodbye.